2006. We got that boy DJ Shadow in this bitch. Yeah, the legendary DJ Shadow. This your nigga E40, man.
For me to have done another instrumental record at this time would not have gotten me the kind of results that I feel like I need to get right now. I just think that it would be too easy for people to dismiss another instrumental record as somehow inferior to Introducing, which is this album that a lot of people hold up as this kind of genre-edifying album, you know? And so it's really, I think for me to do an instrumental record, no matter how different it would sound, it would still be compared, and that's not something I wanted to get into this time. I wanted to create a record that was so completely diverse and so completely representative of what I'm into musically right now that A, it would be hard to compare with Introducing, and B, it would be really hard to imitate. And those were two things I really wanted to make sure that the album satisfied for me. Even though there's a couple beats that made it on from the end of 2003, I would say that real work on the record didn't start until more like the first half of 2004. And the very early demos were songs like Seeing Things, Triplicate, and Enough are probably the three oldest. And then all the way up to the newest tracks were like the E40 song and the Federation song, and oh, and the Nump track is quite old as well. That also roots from those initial sessions. At the very beginning of working on the album, I was toying with a completely new process and new equipment, and a lot of the music I made at that time didn't make the record because it wasn't quite up to par. I was just basically learning my way around the new equipment I was using. I think that to some extent there was an active desire to articulate on this record what I do stand for musically and what I like to listen to. And that's not something I've necessarily been comfortable with in the past, because I've never really been able to reconcile why the perception of what I am and what I do and what I stand for and the reality were so incongruous. And to some extent I was sort of uneasy with trying to reconcile those things. I went to London to work with some live instrumentalists, primarily a group called the Heliocentrics. And it just made more logistical sense for me as one person to come to them rather than 5 or 6 people coming to me. Some of the vocalists like Chris James and the Kasabian guys were based out there. So in terms of London, it just made logistical sense at that time. And as far as New York, same sort of thing. Q-Tip was there, Christina Carter was there. And it was also a good halfway point for Jim Abbas, who's based in London, to come and mix the songs that we had recorded previously in London. So no specific reason, but I do think it's a good idea to vary the environment a little bit in the process of working on an album so that it doesn't get too, I mean, I just get sick of being in the same space, so it made sense to break it up a little bit. When I first started working on the album 2.5 years ago or so, I initially intended it to be extremely political. And what happened is, between working on a few early cuts for the album, including the track with David Banner, and a couple other side projects for other people, I kind of burned out. Because doing political stuff tends to be quite exhausting and weighty. And I also realized that I'm only political about 5% of the time. And I didn't want the album to be to have an uneven distribution as far as the subject matter. So I feel like, you know, touching on the Hurricane Katrina thing is something that is a little easier to do, in the sense that it's not like railing against George Bush, which we do in the song, but I mean, it's the Hurricane Katrina debacle, as far as the relief effort, was something that I think has really disillusioned a lot of Americans in a real deep way. And it's a tragedy that I think cuts across party lines. And I think that no matter who you are, you can kind of be a little bit disgusted about what happened.